As you all know, we've got three speakers. They're all speaking for about 15 minutes each, so it should be quite interesting. So, James, if you'd like to come up on stage, you can start.
It's unstructured.
All right.
You get teleport. It's to keep the trolls out, man.
Oh, that's clever. That's really neat. This invisible, or is this when they start throwing bottles at us? They just kind of like crash in this like.
Yeah, it's the chicken mesh.
You get that physics for that.
Brought these bottles down.
Yeah.
I have
all
no.
right, so, huge thanks to you, Firefox, Aussie, Dizca, all you guys who were responsible for organizing this thing. Thanks for having me here. Oh man. Okay. Yeah. So I guess I'll just talk for 15 minutes about like two companies. This is an expo, and I guess we're here to talk about our projects and things we're working on. So I've got two. One of them you're experiencing it now, JanusVR. This is awesome. It's almost like it's there's more people here than there were seats planned for people, which is really awesome. But yeah, so JanusVR and also FlatFab. So I guess I have this is gonna be really free form. I'll just spend 5 minutes talking about each of those, and then yeah, go like that. So yeah, JanusVR. This project got started, as early in the beginning, as early as like 2013. And originally all I wanted to do was just make it a way to easily share models online, right? So I had this other company, FlatFab, and you can create these geometric objects. And I thought, oh, this VR stuff on the side is so cool. Wouldn't it be great to be able to actually see these objects that you were actually going to make, physical objects that have like actually build them, but actually see them in front of you in VR before you actually commit the costs to actually fabricating the material, spending all that time, and actually having like a look at the design. So, if you're making some dinosaur model or whatever it is, you could head into VR and you could kind of verify that you like the design before you commit this time and this cost to the materials and everything. So, and I was posting about, I guess, on like the Oculus, developer forums there. And what I quickly realized, people got back to me and thought, this is actually a really cool project that kind of can just scrape through the web and actually bring the web, into VR. And the web is so awesome because it's this, gigantic universe in a sense that's kind of untapped in VR, or at least that's what I felt. And I thought there's so much potential here rather than maybe just making like a single game or some single solitary experience that you kind of, what they say, like consume or digest or experience maybe once or a few times, and then, you kind of discard it. Whereas I wanted to be part of creating this platform or this world of experiences that wasn't just one thing that I made, but actually turned around and gave the power to all you guys to be able to create and build and kind of use it for whatever means you see fit. So openness of it was a large part of that. I'm trying to stick to basically 2D web technologies as much as possible. So if you can get your head around HTML and things like this, you can start pretty much programming rooms right away. If you have the ability to work with the 3D modeling software and can export geometry, you can bring it in an easy way. And I know I can see the chat log. I can see what you're saying about me right now, but reading the chat log. But right, I'll try to stop bobbing my head around as much. I'm not even doing that on purpose, but
no, you're fine, man. No pressure. So anyway, there's only like 30 of us here.
No huge plan. I mean, I guess JanusVR is actually technically a company. It's a company in Canada now. The business model is kind of still a to-do item, but I see a lot of potential for the idea, and I'm kind of working all that out, and I'm kind of moving forward with, you guys, the community, that really drive this. I mean, I think that maybe it's a cool piece of software and idea, and it's kind of cool, this idea of portals and rooms, but a lot of the value is just in the community, that you guys who come together and actually build the worlds. Like Janus, as far as what you see, the geometry is like 99%, generated by you guys as opposed to me, which is really an awesome thing, and probably the biggest asset. I think that, in terms of the content, the people that have come together, it's kind of like rivaling the other kind of guys who are coming into the VR wave. They're working on really awesome stuff as well, but no, it's just a super fun and interesting space to be working on. It's like the Wild West, like they say, and you just have this ability to come up with ideas and think of things in new ways, and you combine that with VR, and it's like super rewarding and satisfying. People try this out and they're like, holy crap, this is like a glimpse of the future or something like that. It really like motivates me, makes me feel awesome that making people second guess what they think things should be, or whatever they think that the web might be, or at least having that ability to change people's perceptions on what this metaverse or this future VR enabled web we all use might be one day. And it's super fun. It's an open-ended project. It continues to be into the future. There's no set final goal. Just the fact this is all working right now is awesome. Sounds like someone's using one of those like rotary phones to dial someone's number right now.
I keep muting people. All of the ones that had static, I got rid of already.
Okay.
I think that's actually coming from you, James, that noise.
No, I think Tira's just having some issues.
Really?
I'm in the middle of a presentation right now. Okay, hang on. So here interrupting me now is the voice talent for JanusVR. You want to say a few words, Chantel? She's going for a run. What do you want to say?
Hi.
Oh, you can see what I
Hello.
see, right?
I see what you see.
Hello.
Yeah. They say hello.
Hello.
Actually, I'm going to sit her down. So I'm going to my soul will be removed momentarily, and another soul will come in and replace the avatar. So give me a second here.
Oh, that should be good.
One body.
I'm going to give her the headset and
Isn't
hold
that
it. So
marriage?
just one sec. Bear with me.
Virtual meeting. Here, look with your eyes.
This is the stuff of nightmares.
Creepy.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
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 So, yo,
We've got about 15 minutes here. So
Janice
make it
loaded.
snappy.
Sorry. Okay. This is very neat, guys. It's nice to see you all.
Hello.
Can you
No
please
pressure,
say,
Hello.
please say something Janice says, like Janice noted.
Tell the story about the French. Do it. It's funny.
all the French people
VR,
here too.
huh?
Janice loaded.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Oh, that's great.
I love you.
James wants to tell the story about the French guy. So we were watching this video of some guys from France, was it, James?
Yeah.
That were playing, and there's one guy who's trying to imitate what I say in English. It's actually quite hilarious.
Do you do professional voiceovers? Is that what you do, or just happen to do it for the?
No, I just happened to do it for this. I'm actually a nurse, so very not bad at all.
Oh, you have a very nice voice.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, it was nice to meet you guys. I'll give you back to James.
All right, take care.
Goodbye.
Keep up the good work.
Now time for the soul transfer.
As the head floats
Very
above
Where
the
you're-
body.
weird.
Head spins
Yeah, see, not every
backwards.
developer can get to show off his works. Like this is what other people are doing
Okay,
with my
add
program.
weird space noise where souls change again in the avatar. I'm back. She didn't tell the punchline of the story though. There was the guy, this guy from France. So I guess he goes by Dracul and he streams, and he's like figuring out how do I change the avatar, right? And he's like, he's like merde de putain, like saying all this, French. He's being profane as hell, and he finally figures it out. He's like, press control, and he gets it right. And Chantel's like, assigning avatar, and the guy's just like, and I cracked up on that. That's all. That's that story. Okay, so that's JanusVR in a nutshell, then I guess. So
Tell us about FlatFab.
yeah, cool.
Any of
Hey,
you guys got
I got
any
a
questions or?
Yeah, I do,
Oh.
James. Nice to meet you.
Okay, yeah.
I've been dreaming about this for 20 years, and the internet being a place to be, a meeting place versus 2D pages, and so, congratulations on what you've accomplished. This is, bigger than I think all of us even know. My question is, are you thinking, have you thought at all about, like, instead of downloading an application, starting something that could be browser based, like maybe as a plugin to start, and like work towards actually a web language that might be standardized that could be for the 3D internet?
Definitely, I've thought about that a lot. So I guess there are multiple stances I have on that. One, before I go on and say because I'm doing something different that I somehow hate, the other pushes towards WebVR and all that stuff. It's totally not the case. I'm all for it. I think it's the coolest stuff. I've seen some really amazing stuff going on there, and I hope that all continues because it, further validates this idea that the internet and VR and this idea of spaces and collaboration and the openness of technologies can all come together. So however it ends up being in its final form, I'm all for it. And, you know, although Janus right now is its own standalone application, I'm not, you know, set on that, but I am highly practical, and I kind of want to do, I mean, I got enough of you in here. It was a lot of crashing and it was like super rough, but I've got it to the point that we're all kind of in this room together and things are kind of working. The WebVR stuff is really great, but my experiences with it so far are maybe that you don't kind of, in terms of performance, which, you know, they're working on, I'm not sure that it's kind of one-to-one with sort of a native, you know, experience. It's kind of built, you know, for your OS of choice, Windows, Mac, Linux right now. So, you know, trying to get like, you know, 75 FPS, a really smooth experience using sort of like, you know, like Firefox Nightly or something like that, and using the WebVR plugin there might be difficult. Other issues with that. So that's kind of like, you know, the plugin and the technology and the performance argument. Another thing that I look at is, you know, the sort of language that you're going to use to actually, you know, build and define these worlds and these experiences, and also the, you know, the accessibility of that. And I actually think I mean, JavaScript is great and it serves its purpose really well, but I don't know if it's like the final, you know, be-all end-all language that we're going to program the entire web with. Not to say that it's not good. So like I like JavaScript and it's great at all these things, but you know, to do literally everything in JavaScript and, you know, bring in these different libraries like 3.js and so on. And now you're going to have your users doing their own things like matrix manipulations and a lot of this low-level stuff. It's been my experience with it that, you know, you almost need like to have a bachelor degree in computer science to get these like web VR worlds off the ground. And I think that's why maybe we've seen, you know, relatively few rooms like that versus, you know, in Janus where we've got like, you know, arrows, with like thousands of rooms, if not more. But yeah. All right. This is the beer bottles, right? Coming at me right now. You're getting disapprove of what I'm saying. So anyway, I think that, you know, not that's not an unsolvable problem. I mean, I'm sure that you can wrap that, you know, that low level stuff and, you know, use some sort of higher level way to, you know, in a really simple way, kind of lay out these worlds. That said, you know, people like, you know, Tony Parisi and these guys are high on these markup languages that are purely declarative, right? You use like XML like tags or some combination of that with CSS to define the content and sort of layout of the geometry in the rooms. And those are promising. I think VRML maybe in particular didn't quite take off, right? This was a time when people were into like psychotropic drugs and stuff, and you know, I think the spec shows that the VRML is a little weird, right? So, you know, he's taking another shot at it with Glam, which is looking to be a lot better.
Change drugs.
Right, yeah. And you know, obviously the spiritual successors like X3D and X3 DOM projects are also really interesting looking. Whoa, jump. Okay. But yeah, no. So there's all these promising technologies. It's just stuff to come. But since I think that we're such at an early time, it's a creative time. I kind of, my approach was just kind of to hit the ground running and then do something like HTML, like that made a lot of sense, that was super simple and could just get people to make like a VR room like right away, and kind of having sort of not control, but, you know, being able to guide the direction of the spec that Janus supports. Allow me like, oh, we want to add videos, bam, videos are in tomorrow. Oh, we want to have images that are like, you know, allow stereo imagery, bam, I can do it tomorrow. Oh, we need videos that, you know, side by side or over under 3D formatted, bam, I'll just add some attributes to the video tag that can do both, right? So a lot of it's like community and this like super quick like iteration in terms of how I can respond to feature requests, because basically I'm kind of making up the standard and spec as it goes along, right? Now that's not ideal in terms of how it falls into the greater, you know, the Web3D or that final standard technology that we're all going to use. But I guess it's kind of early days for that. I mean, I was actually at SIGGRAPH last year, and I actually attended and presented Janus to like this Web3D subgroup there. So there's a community of guys who that's like what they care about, right? They have a lot of interesting stuff. And yeah, I don't know, you know, they might just kind of disapprove of my kind of just like, you know, all standards be damned, you know, hit the ground running and just create something. But I felt that was important just to get moving on something. I'm really giving you a really long answer for this, but
no, I mean it's a good answer, and I think it is good that you started this because it's got people's attention going in versus waiting for standardization. It's got people's imaginations running. I think it's been a great fun tool to use. And yeah, I mean, we are in the early days, the wild, wild west, and Moore's law is going to catch up, the hardware, software, and it'll get better and better.
One final answer to your question is that when people think of like the 3D web and what they want to do, sadly, they often think of just like, here's your 2D formatted plane, and I'm going to embed like a 3D, sort of a window into a small 3D world, right? So you'll render some 3D object inside there, but it falls within this context of being like within this 2D plane or space, right? And if that's going to be the status quo, I mean, that kind of sucks. Or, if you are going to do a WebVR experience, you're going to want a lot of this, the ability to collaborate. Like I can like right click the floor, we can start building and changing the world together, changing the code, changing all these things, or being able to see and socialize, right? So even with the WebVR spec, I mean, they're starting really at like the base case, right? Whereas I went full on like getting the full VR experience, getting us all in a space together, so we can see each other, build together, do all these things. So that, not that any of that's impossible with WebVR, it's just there's gonna be a lot more they're gonna have to build to make that possible, even when they do nail this just base level of the pyramid stuff where they can actually have like a versatile WebVR plugin that will work on the common 2D browsers and stuff.
Sorry to interrupt you there, James, but we're going to have to call a halt to your part now. 15 minutes went past faster than we thought. So thank you very much for that talk. If everybody would like to thank James for his talk.
Thank you.
Yay!
Okay.
We can do questions after the whole thing is over.
Afterwards, we can do individual questions. Up next, we've got Deep Rifter, better known as Chris Madsen. He's going to give us a 15-minute talk.
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey.
Teleport up onto the stage here.
Hello.
You can.
Hello.
You got to teleport through the invisible screen.
Yeah, you got to step back.
There we go.
You got a 5-meter. Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, guys, I am covering the social scene for Road to VR. I've been playing around in the social platforms. It's been about 1.5 years now, and thanks for the Road to VR background here. That's awesome. If you guys get a chance to read that, The Void, that's the last experience I did where they overlay virtual reality onto the real world. If you guys ever get a chance to check one of these installations out, The Void is just one of a few popping up. In fact, out in the lobby here, there is a video of another one. I can't remember the name of it, but they're doing the overlays as well, which is incredible. So anyway, back to social VR. This is really cool. The fact that I'm here with you guys, the fact that you're all here is going to make you experts in the years to come. Very, very, very few people are doing this, and I'm excited to see how this field expands over the next couple of years. We're still very early days, and it's awesome to see these prototypes, working prototypes up and running. So much potential here. The fact that we can all gather from the comforts of our own home, from around the world, and share information, and more than that, but experience what we have to show. Being able to click on a portal in one of these booths and experience what people want you to experience. If you have let's say you're in the auto industry, you could click on that portal, hop in a car, and take it for a ride. That stuff just boggles my mind. This is exciting times that we are in. So, we're here to support all the social platforms. We want social VR to be successful. And what I see making a lot of these places is the community that's involved. I mean, Janus has an amazing community here. You guys have been working so freaking hard. I've watched this evolve great strides in the last even 6 months. It's been amazing how far you guys have come with all of this. So, and how this is going to affect individuals, families, societies, the way we do business. I'm also a therapist, and we're weeks away of running our first groups inside social VR spaces. Very excited about that. There's so much potential here. Any questions from anyone so far?
I kind of want to know what are some ways we can help you guys with this, building this technology. And
Well, Yeah, from Road to VR's perspective, it's about coming to events like this right now. It's about helping us test out these prototypes, right? In fact, what I was working on all morning today, we are putting together a master calendar for all the social VR events on the Road to VR site. We should have that up and running maybe even as soon as today, tomorrow. We're going to be hosting all of these virtual get-togethers as well as the real space get-togethers like the various meetups, etc. So we want to be that go-to place where you can just hop on and see all the events that are happening across these spaces and hop right in.
Do you think that social VR is the killer app for VR, do you?
Absolutely, but not just necessarily one. It's going to be all across the board. It's going to be the multiplayer games as well as the social VR platforms. And everything in between. Social VR, it just cracks me up because, everybody, I keep hearing these reports in the news and whatnot about how virtual reality is going to be that isolating experience. And that's just not the case. I mean, look at this. This is as social as it gets right here. So I think that's very cool. No isolation.
I got a question.
What's that?
How was the void? Can you describe what that was like?
Amazing. Read the article, you'll get a good impression. But here's the deal with it. When you layer virtual reality on a real space, as soon as you start grabbing at objects and you feel the wall in front of you and you feel the jets of air coming at you, all the little special effects that they have through these things, it just convinces the brain that it's a real space. It like anchors you to the virtual world. So even when you start getting all these other absurd, crazy things thrown at you, your brain's already accepting the environment as real. So it's extremely intense.
Have they been working with any kind of technology with the Vive or are planning to?
Well, once again, I'm not a developer, I'm a reporter, but I'm really stoked about the room space that the Vive is going to provide. I mean, to be able to be, for example, in a party, you're in a room, you've got the cocktails on the table like we did at that big social celebration a couple months back, to be able to literally just walk around in my room and walk amongst you guys is just going to be a complete trip. It's going to really lock in that feeling of being present and be able to just, reach out, shake a hand, be present with others. I think it's going to amplify it quite a bit. I'm really excited about the Vive.
Actually, I do have a question.
Me too.
Well, as a reporter, what did you think
We're a little ways off with that technology.
What did you think of Oculus's decision to stop supporting OS X and Linux?
Well, we just limited some market space, didn't we? Yeah. I'm a little bit bummed out about that just because we want as many users as possible, and that is going to cut the numbers. So I'm really bummed out about that. Like I said, VR is not going to take off right away. It's going to take some time, and the more operating systems we support, the more people we're going to get on board, and we need as many people in these spaces as possible to really start getting that traction.
They're pausing support. Maybe let's continue it later.
Or another company can go in and say, hey, we've got the skills to go in and improve it on our own. So maybe it opens up another company to the same headset.
Well, the independents are always the most nimble, right? They're the ones that are cracking out, dealing with the problems the quickest. So that very well might be the case. But I am a little bit bummed. I just think it's going to prolong VR taking off. You got to do what you got to do. But it is going to prolong things, I'm afraid.
I got a question. Nuke Marine, Future Creeper, whatever. For virtual reality, I think what I'm seeing here is that we're going to see the advent of AR, augmented reality, being developed inside of virtual reality. Because I can imagine, like with the social experiments, we are in a social event. I can imagine some augmented reality stuff only I see improving my experience, and that then can translate to real world when we move AR to the real world. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow, I hadn't even thought about that, Nuke. That's pretty cool. That's pretty wild. Yeah. You know, it's really crazy too. You use the phrase, you know, translating to the real world. What I'm intrigued by too is as these spaces grow, as business is conducted in these spaces, how that's going to actually impact the real world. Things we decide in here are going to carry over into the real world, and that's very intriguing when it comes to you know, the way society operates. This is a whole new paradigm, right? Well, not totally new. I mean, we've kind of been doing that to an extent. On the regular web, but this is going to really take it to a new level, I think.
Yeah, like the
Okay,
HoloLens.
so my question is, who do you think the big
Could you
players
introduce
are?
yourself? Say your name when you ask a question.
Yeah, my name's Konchak. I did Phase, which is a first-person shooter that works in this. But my question is, who do you feel are the major players in VR right now? Like, I feel like you have a unique position being a reporter, getting to speak with individuals and companies. So yeah, basically, who do you feel are the major players?
Now, I'm covering social VR. So when you're asking that question, are you talking about who do I feel the big players are in the social space?
That works for me.
Yeah, I mean, here we go. Janus, Rift Max has certainly got us off to a good kickstart in the early days, and I hope Mike really comes back strong with that. We've got VR Chat. Converge is doing a ton of events right now. Those are the, and of course AltSpace. So there's your big players right now. But here's the crazy thing. You know, we got to ask ourselves, what is Facebook working on right now? It's going to be huge. I think that all of us as kind of the more independent developers, as we're pioneering this space, I really want us working all together as much as we possibly can, because we are going to have the huge money operations that are really going to put a stake in this landscape.
Hey, have you heard of Pluto VR?
I've heard a little bit about Pluto VR. What have you heard, Firefox?
Oh, no, this is Aussie. Oh no, they've just got, you know, a lot of talent behind them and a lot of money, and well, they're setting out to take a big chunk out of the social VR scene. It seems to be like a lot like Converge or coming from that direction, but they're still a dark horse. There's still a lot of those companies still got to announce what they're up to in the next 6 months.
So the question is, what's going to drive people to the more independent pioneering sites like this and the others that I just listed? You know, that's what we got to figure out. I always think there's going to be a space for the more independent platforms. You know, I personally am not a Facebook user. I don't like it. I don't like using it. I'd rather be in an independent site, but I don't know, you know, the rest of the world may not feel that way. I have no idea how this is going to turn out 2 years from now when we're up against people with billions of dollars.
I can tell you the music industry is really excited. My friends, the producers and musicians and bands are all really excited about the potential social aspects of this, always looking for new media platforms and ways to interact with you know, the fans. And so this is a brilliant platform for that.
Absolutely. Have you done any gigs in VR yet? Have you used VR for your group?
So right now, the page, the site for Caden Cashmere is the one that I did, which is helping promote her album, and then her producer Warren Hewart from Hollywood is promoting his video series. So I'm just kind of starting with that, but I've got you know, people Aussie knows my friends from the band Heart in Seattle. They're interested in doing like the 360-degree videos, taking something like that on tour to have a live performance available everywhere they go. There's a lot of people interested in that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. Recommended if you want to take a look. Sty Eyes and the Bison Kid is a 360 music video. Absolutely incredible if you wanted to check that out. But here's the thing. I mean, everybody creating in this space right now has such an edge. You know, if we're following the VR scene, we kind of are all in a bubble. It seems like things are moving incredibly fast, and it's like you almost can't keep up sometimes. But the reality is, geez, I just went and demoed to like 300 people at a mental health conference, and like maybe 1% really knew anything about VR, which really opened my eyes that, holy cow, you guys all standing here are so far ahead of the curve right now, and the opportunities that provides are really awesome. So, you know, keep doing those developments, you know, get your daughter's name out there in the VR scene. You're going to be steps ahead of everybody else. And yeah, I'm excited about that as well, that the fact that we all have that edge right now.
Yeah, so
I've got a question.
Oh,
Alarm Ferret. There's a lot of people who, because of their anonymous status online, are dicks. Do you see that increasing more as virtual reality becomes bigger, or do you see people more becoming associated with their presence and becoming nicer, I guess?
Right. Yeah. Fortunately, we haven't seen much of that because, we're all pretty tight-knit community, which has been nice, but absolutely that's going to be an issue. I remember in the early days, Rift Max creating that boot gun where Mike would actually go up and if someone was causing problems, shoot a boot out of the gun. It would boot them off the servers. I thought that was freaking awesome. But yeah, that's going to be a problem. I mean, to get real crazy in my thoughts, I mean, I've even thought about, geez, when it comes to a point where you're doing fingerprints to get, associate with your avatar, that might slow that down. But that's some pretty crazy, creepy stuff too. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it's going to be a problem, and I don't know how we're going to solve that. Firefox, James, have you guys thought about that at all? How you're going to deal with the dicks?
We've had discussions at length on that.
In the future, social VR is going to be like Grand Theft Auto.
It's going to be run by servers, so you're going to be on servers that make your social experience the better one. Say if you like more freedom, you'd be on another server.
Currently, the administration is just server by server, so it's just by whoever's monitoring their server for people connecting to it.
I'd love to hear from James, though, his thoughts.
Yeah, what's your thoughts, James?
Obviously, security and controlling user behavior is a concern. So the solution I think that we've been moving forward with is that if anyone right now presses like the / key on their keyboard, they'll find they're in like a debug mode. What the debug mode shows, is actually all the servers you're connected to, and then the URLs you're subscribed to for events. So why do I bring this up is because actually right now where we are, we're on like 104.237.
I wanted to bring that up. This is all running off one $10 a month server. All of the multiplayer for everything today. So the cost is incredibly low. Yeah, one, and it's running like a little champ.
Well, we're on two different servers. We're on the one in the homeroom. That's its own server, and then this room is its own server.
This room is this is one. The whole of the convention, the expo, and all that's on a different multiplayer server, and it's just the cheapest package too from the node.
To get to the answer is that in the early days of Janus, it was all centralized. So like VR sites and Qster, right, was like a major kind of partner in developing, Janus and getting the infrastructure and getting like hosting for the rooms and all this, and getting actually these services which are originally like free, so people could create the rooms and worlds. And there was like one shared central multiplayer server, and actually it does take up the slack, and like any ordinary web page you go to the central server. But now Janus will actually dynamically branch and connect to multiple servers. Anyway, to answer the question, the idea being is if you wanted a constrained kind of experience, like sort of call out the dicks, you have some form of authentication or something such that someone can't go on the multiplayer server without having an account or something. And then there's these presumptions of user behavior. But basically the idea is just that you could go to a part of the web in Janus, and then it's governed by its own set of laws, right? And they can kind of administer it how they wish. But when you're not in those custom sites, there's kind of a fallback one that we all kind of go to, and for better or worse, it's more Wild West. But yeah, moving forward, the idea would be hugely decentralized. Think of any domain as having its own accompanying Janus server that comes with its o/ set of rules and authentication and whatever else. Like even here, I think to make this scale up so that Janus normally works on 10 updates per second, but if you hit / I see he's changed it so that it actually updates 5 times per second. This is probably to accommodate all the concurrent users. Yeah. So even then, there's actually we're on another server where kind of different rules are being applied to Janus. Simple example, but yeah. Anyway.
And to add on to that, James, if I may add, just Janus and Scene VR are two social programs that talk to each other, and they're operating on 2 different rules, and they see 2 different things, but it's still communicating and it's social. And that's just another way that's going to work, where these different social VR programs will be talking to each other and deal with their own rules as well.
Yeah, so I'm actually happy to bring in other platforms like Scene VR and make them work with this.
We have to move on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt everyone.
Next subject.
I had a question for Deep Rifter though.
Well, no, sorry. I'll ask him later. Big thank you to Deep Rifter there, everyone.
We'll get everyone on the stage after this is all.
After this, we'll have questions.
We'll have a big conversation about this, very open.
3 people and just have questions.
I think that Mario just crashed people.
Yeah, I just crashed out.
Alright, so A.J. Campbell, are you here?
I am here.
Alright, take the stage, man. It's all you.
Texas green tea.
Everybody knows A.J. Campbell from Rocket Sale.
Clap, clap,
Hey,
clap,
hey,
clap, clap, clap.
Woo-hoo.
Nice. How's it going, guys? All right. Nice.
What were you doing with my hand?
Right on. No worries. No worries.
A little late, so.
It's all good. So, I'm not sure how many of you guys are familiar with me, but I'll give you a little background. I'll spend a few minutes on Rocket Sale. I'll spend a few minutes talking about audio because 3D audio is kind of how I got started in VR, and then I guess I'll answer any questions you guys might have. So I built a team. It's me and 3 other guys back in October because I started to get really obsessed with what was going on here in the 3D web. And we started in VR chat. Now we're building stuff in JanusVR, and we're just in love with everything that's happening right here in this room. And so right now we're kind of focused on avatars. And if you go to the Rocket Sale website in Janus right now, you can get there by hitting the tab button and typing in Rocket Sale. There's free avatars that you guys can equip, including the one I'm wearing in multiple colors you guys can pick from. And then also there's a sign-up form there where you can request a custom avatar. Now there's a bit of a line forming for the custom avatars, and I only have 4 people on my team, including me. So we'll try and get to as many of them as possible. But if you guys want a custom avatar, hit us up. We're trying to do as many of those as possible right now. But so we formed Rocket Sale because we want to figure out what the challenges are in helping the web become 3D, and that's what we're all about. So and that's when we started, it wasn't necessarily avatars. Right now it's avatars. A few months from now it might be something else, but we have a lot of ideas, a lot of stuff we're working on behind closed doors. That it's going to be some cool stuff coming up. And so right now it's avatars. We're probably going to be building architecture in the future. Any content you guys might need, stay in touch with us. We're happy to at least bounce ideas around. But so I'm going to jump into audio a little bit because audio has been a hot topic on everybody's mind today. And I am kind of obsessed with audio too because I got my degree in music composition. I kind of double majored in programming and music composition. And when I first got into VR, I felt like that was the area where I could be most useful, and so I went and built a 3D audio plugin. And there's more of that going on now, but I jumped in a little over a year ago when there was really hardly anybody talking about audio, and so it's really important. I think a lot of people are talking about high performance graphics. With regard to VR, because we got to keep the frame rates high in order to not get people sick when they're in the experience. And not as many people, I think, realize that is equally true of audio. And a lot of the challenges that we're seeing here today are due to the fact that Mumble Chat is actually running some 3D audio algorithms every time we try and talk to each other. And I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with 3D audio, but shout out or text something if you guys are familiar with the term HRTF. Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay, a few people. Got some developers in here. So HRTFs are basically, they're like the stuff that's going on under the hood when we're talking to each other that allows us to sound like we're in a certain position. So it's the easiest way I can describe it is it's like stereo surround sound, except it works in headphones. And it's really cool because you don't need a surround sound system in order to get really high quality audio that sounds like it's coming from a specific direction, like a really specific direction. This stuff is accurate within a couple of degrees. It's even more accurate than your surround sound system. The trouble is that it really likes to chew on your processor. So you have a lot of it going on at once, and it will destroy your CPU. And so when I jumped into VR, my main goal was to try and figure out how to do some 3D audio that was really, really high efficiency. And I figured out how to do that with a plugin called VRSFX. Which is unfortunately only available on the Unity Asset Store right now, so it doesn't really help us in Janus. But I am going to be looking to port it onto as many different platforms as possible. So wanted you guys to know about that. And if you have any questions about audio, I'm a complete open book. You can email me at aj@vrsfx or aj@rocketsale.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I'm also I'm in Los Angeles, so I'm kind of the guy that a lot of the 360 video people are coming to around here to figure out how to get some good audio captured along with their video. So I've done about half a dozen 360 video shoots using a few different methods. So there's omnibinaural, there's HRTFs, there's ambisonics. It's all, you know, there's a bunch of jargon that floats around. If you guys want to know more about that stuff, hit me up. But basically, like, there's no one good technique that is the end-all be-all answer for every recording scenario. And anybody who's interested in 360 video or 3D audio for video games, I think it's just important to know that you know, this one plugin you use for one situation might not be the best for every other situation. So it's important to understand the benefits and consequences. And like I said, this stuff is complicated, so feel free and shoot me an email if you have any questions about it. So you know, I can talk more about 360 video. I could talk about audio for video games. I could talk more about Rocket Sale if you guys want. But any questions so far?
Yeah, I do have one question.
Yeah, what do you mean by 360 videos? You want to immerse us even more? How so?
Have you not seen the videos in Janus yet? The 360?
Sorry, who's asking the question?
That was Ardent.
Aha. And can you repeat it one more time? I didn't quite catch it.
Oh, he was asking about what do you plan on doing with the, like, how do you plan on immersing or further the immersion in with 360 videos?
So for me, it's all about 3D rendering every single sound that's supposed to be sourced in the scene. So when you're doing cinema, there's a difference between score and source audio. So anything that exists in the environment, which is in VR, there's a lot more requirements for that, because in order to feel immersed audio-wise, you want to render as much of your audio as possible in 3D if it's a sound that exists in the environment that they're standing in. And that's pretty tough to do, because, like, we have 3 people talking at once and it starts to eat our processors. What if you have a scene in a movie where you're trying to capture the rustling in the trees and the feet and shuffling on the ground and somebody talking in the background? And, you know, I could go on and on. Like, I can think of situations where there are dozens of sound effects in the environment that together just kind of create an ambience. But as humans, we have this crazy good ability to just turn our head very slightly and pick out any of the sounds in that ambience and have a really clear, distinct picture of what that sound is and where it's coming from. Our anatomy has this amazing ability to determine the directionality of the sound. And so the 3D rendering that we do, we call it spatializing 3D audio. It allows you to listen in headphones and be able to tell whether the sound's behind you, up above your head, over to the right, but also above or below, any direction you want in a sphere around your head. You can replicate that by processing the signal in a certain way. There's a large number of ways that you can do that, and based on the situation of the scene that you're trying to record, you might want to use one type of equipment. You might want to use a different type of plugin on top of that. There's a lot of different scenarios. Does that answer the question?
Is 3D audio different from surround sound? Like if you're mixing in a DAW?
Absolutely. So it's something that I think is really tough for the guys I have worked with here in LA who don't have a lot of experience with 3D audio yet, but they have like buku experience in cinema and video games, and they really know their stuff around their DAW. But when you're talking about doing the final mix in 5.1 or 7.1 or trying to get to Atmos or whatever it is,
Yeah, I have Atmos.
it's really important to understand for VR that all of that kind of goes out the window. When you deploy the final mix for a VR platform, the absolute ideal scenario is always stereo left, right, and that's it. And that's because when you spatialize your audio, the output of every single plugin that does that right is going to be a stereo left, right. And then if you try and upmix that, it's just going to degrade the quality of it.
Got it.
All right, I think
I have a question. Oh, sorry. Can I go? Yeah, all right. So, very interesting talk. I actually want to know kind of where your particular focus is in the space of 3D audio, because you can kind of divide it into two camps, and I think you covered both. One is like an actual 360 video performance that takes place, where all of that sort of spatialization, if you will, how the waves bounce off all the walls and the environment that you're capturing, already gets done for you for free. So the challenge becomes acquisition. Conversely, in a virtual environment like we have, you might actually come up with like some low dimensional model to approximate things like reverberation, like sounds bouncing off walls and dampening and all these things. So that's kind of like a complementary or like the other half of the problem. So where do you fall in there, like one or the other or all of the above?
Well, so it's an excellent question, and it's kind of the hot topic among audio engineers that specialize in 3D stuff. And so the distinction I like to make is the difference between direction, distance, and we call it timbre in music. I've never heard anybody in 3D audio call it that, but that's kind of what I call it. So when I'm talking about timbre, I'm talking about the characteristics of the signal that that come from the fact that there are certain materials in the room, right? So if you have carpet on the floor, the reverberations are going to be affected by that. If there's a couch in the middle of the room, the audio is going to be affected by that. But so the important thing I think for us right now today is to fight the battles that we can win. And so when you're talking about creating audio that sounds realistic, for me, it's about 80% directionality and 20% everything else. And so the stuff that HRTFs and binaural mics do to allow you to determine, oh, the sound is coming from exactly that direction. That characteristic is much more important to me than the reverb acoustics of the room. And so the other important aspect of that is that if you look at the performance cost of calculating the directionality versus the reverb acoustics, it's night and day, a huge difference. There's it's kind of the opposite. You get 80% of the value from 20% of the cost. So determining the direction a sound is coming from, it's way less expensive on the processor than figuring out if there's carpet on the floor. And then if you're not an audio engineer, then it's as a layman, it's really easy to tell when the sound is rendered such that you can hear the direction. It's much more subtle to be able to tell what kind of materials are on the floor and on the walls, right? So the reverb characteristics for me, Exactly. Well, so the other thing about this is there's so much generic research that's been done in the field of reverb. So the early reflections and late reflections, we have all kinds of software that approximates that stuff so well that we can kind of rely on that and not have to bother chewing on the processor in order to figure out the exact shape of the room or the exact materials that are on the floor. And at the end of the day, you get a sound that's it's absolutely not 100% exactly what that room would sound like, but it's close enough to 100%. While keeping the processor requirements where they need to be, and that's more important because if you make it sound 100% perfect in the room, but you drop the frame rate to 15, that's a non-starter. It's not going to work in VR. So it's much more important, I think, to watch the frame rate the whole time and determine what you can get away with in audio. I mean, 20 years from now, we're going to be doing amazing things with early and late reflections and getting a lot closer to 100% perfect representation of sound as far as reflections are concerned. But we're a long way from that because today's processor capability is just not going to be able to handle that.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I'd like to.
Sure.
You know what they need is a GPU for sound, like they have a GPU for graphics.
So I think the idea here is that we get the other two guests, James.
If you'd just like to come up on stage, Firefox. Would everybody like to thank AJ for his
Thanks.
talk? It was very informative.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hit me up if you have any questions.
We've made 3 more channels in the Mumble channel. If you see, they're broken up. One says AJ, Rocket Sail, Deep Rifter, and James McCrae. What we're going to do now is we're going to break into those 3 channels, those 3 Mumble channels, so people can talk further with the 3 guest speakers.
Also, is there a preferred room for each of these guys?
Yeah, in the Mumble channel, there's 3 special rooms already made up. But
no, I also meant like in the VR space.
You'd also just have like all 3 of them stand up, and then people could raise their hands and like.
I think that's probably better, Aussie, to have everyone just come on stage.
Yep, whichever way you want to work it out. But yeah, we'll break up now so you can all individually speak to the 3 speakers. Before you move off, we'd like to say thank you very much for coming today. We've appreciated the turnout. It's we spent a lot of work on making this look as good as it did, and the turnout has really heartened us. This is amazing. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Great job.
Yeah.
No worries.